Oh, I'm not supposed to touch it. I'm not supposed to touch the mic, but I really wanted to. Anyway, we have a very perplexing panel coming up next. It's called AI and Blockchain, but off-chain. I don't know how it works off-chain, but if there's anyone who can figure it out, it's going to be these guys. We are having Seg return to the stage. Hope you're not sick of him yet. Sam Harcourt and Dr. Bernhard Scholz. This is a very packed panel, so please give them a round of applause, and let's welcome them to the stage. Sam.
Welcome, welcome. Thanks for having myself, Seg, and Bernhard. You have two we call them gigabrains internally, and that is someone who you go to when you have any technical problem, or developers come to us with some sort of technical problem. I asked Bernhard before coming out here, I said, are you a vibe coder? And he says, I don't know what that is. And that's a good sign, because we take all of our internal processes very seriously. And Bernhard and Seg have helped us shape a lot from, I'd say, a small startup vibe to a very well-structured company that we are now. And I think that's where we can start off, because I know that's where we cross over the most from the BD side and the tech side is a lot of the questions coming through, and maybe we can start this panel off discussing on how we improved some of our internal processes utilizing AI, and how our Gigabrain did it.
100%. I think the vibe coding point is actually, it's funny, but it's also slightly deeper than you might think, because you want fundamentally on the chain infrastructure level, you want the builders that are researching, doing the R&D, and doing the execution on the VM and on the consensus layer to be very sort of specialized and very honed in on their craft. And then you want app builders, for example, to be doing a lot of the more of the vibe coding and sort of innovation or whatever else you have on the app layer, building on top of the fundamental rock solid foundation that the more research oriented and the more fundamental infrastructure builders have been crafting for them. And I think that each has their place, and I think that Bernhard and his team has done a really, really good job of segmenting out in terms of the talent that they have, what exactly each person's working on. You have extremely focused specialists that are working specifically on DB optimization, for example, and then you have other people who are working on front-end items and other things like that. And the structure of the organization on the tech side is something that isn't really spoken too much, but Sonic has one of the most robust tech teams that I've ever seen in this space, and I've been in this space for a while. And maybe Bernhard, you can talk a little bit about how that's evolved, how it started, and what you see, how you see it going forward, as I know that things are growing.
So we were very lucky that we could attract people from big tech, and their software engineering processes are very robust. And this means AIs are used, but only in notions of supporting the process rather than really implementing code with AI. And the main reason is that AIs are very fragile nowadays. They are not, they hallucinate. I mean, they really don't know what they're talking about. They just produce a code which looks like it's working, but when you look in great detail, you see it's just made up. It's like a student not knowing the answer and then starting to make things up. And the AIs do something very similar. And so for the blockchain itself, it's basically a no-go zone for AIs at the moment. But there are many examples where AIs have a very good place. So for example, most of our dev folk really use Copilot. We write Go code, and Copilot really gives them a leg up. They can become so much more productive, writing comments, doing unit tests, very rough ones. So AIs have a place in our dev process, but it's not where you think AIs can really replace our very specialized tech team. But there are so many other examples where we started to use AI. I mean, this was really spearheaded by SEG, so it's all about question and answers for dev support. So we started building a database with, common issues, and AIs will provide a most likely answer, which then gets scrutinized by our folks, and that gets sent off. So we see really interesting ways how AIs are used, not so much in the dev process, more in the outreach and development relation process.
I think Bernhard's touching on a very important point that there are processes in which AI excels and works really well. Oftentimes those are softer processes versus the hard process of, for example, code construction and these types of things. Softer processes involve like dev outreach, knowledge base divulgence and things like that. I think, and then also additionally with a human in the loop. So the way that we've designed our internal systems is that whenever a response goes out, for example, to a developer who's building a multi-million-dollar application, it needs to have correct info. And as Bernhard said, AI can oftentimes hallucinate. So it's very, very useful in terms of generating the 90% of the skeleton of the structure of the answer. Most of the times it'll be right, but maybe 10% of the time it'll be wrong. And for us, that's the 10% of the time, because there are millions and millions of dollars at stake, it can't be that incorrect information is sent out without any human in the loop or supervision. So the specialized tech team comes into play to scrutinize a lot of the information that goes out. And so in this way, it sort of takes away like 90% of the burden from the tech team, so they're able to actually write the code and do their jobs and not have to do customer support. And then they spend maybe a few minutes on each query just reviewing the answer. And if it's wrong, they'll give a proper answer. But most of the time it's right, and they'll confirm it. And so that's sort of streamlined, I guess, the dev support process, which in turn leads to better dev efficiency, which allows them to build better products, and it leads to better dev efficiency on the contract level, but also in the DApp level, but also internally. So it's a win-win if you use AI correctly, and if you use AI in the wrong way, it can be catastrophic, as you've seen perhaps some of the vibe coding horror stories on Twitter, where someone who was not very technically inclined created a full stack app, and it's good that they're experiencing this, they're trying it out, but ultimately, the AI didn't take into consideration various security concerns, and what happened was they got DDoS, their API usage went skyrocketed, and then they owed $50,000 to like a cloud provider, right? So like this is the perils of AI are as real as the benefits, and I think like any tool, a knife, it's a very classic example. You can use a knife to cut a lemon. You can use a knife to kill somebody. You can use it well. You can use it wrongly. And if you use it well, it can be very, very efficient, very beneficial to you. And I think Sonic is very early. We've been using AI since the GPT-2 days, very, very interested in it early on, but also using it as responsibly as we can, and in optimizing our processes, and there's a lot of interesting things.
Let's double click on this part, which is the risk. And you're talking about large stakes of whether it's TVL and capital within DeFi, where we can't just vibe code our way to protecting ourselves. Mm-hmm. I think we should talk more about how AI is growing. Does that present more risks for us? We just completed a hackathon, whereas AI versus devs, seeing who could win and get the AI to tell them the private key. We did just have a winner, and that's amazing to see that someone could break that.
Actually, the dev track just got completed as well. So
amazing.
Devs cracked the contracts as well. So
nice. Congratulations to whoever won that. We'll find out soon.
Users and devs will split the pot. I think it's 55,000 S right now. So both users and devs will get a sizable chunk. Yeah.
But so and Bernhard, I'd be especially curious on your thoughts on this. Would be, as AI develops, does that present any more risks for us as a chain? And maybe any thoughts you might have if you're a builder in the space? Any steps you can take to maybe protect yourself from any rising threats from how AI is growing?
I feel the biggest risk at the moment is that AIs have basic program comprehension and can be used to find attack vectors in your software. Mm. So before you needed really large auditing teams finding these vulnerabilities. Now you can use AIs, and most of the time they might be wrong, but it could be that they're right at some time, and then it is a problem because the effort of using AIs is, just a button.
I think one point there is that AI has not necessarily made things less secure. I think apps will be as secure as they used to be. The attack vectors are much more easily discovered now because the bandwidth of AI is much greater than the bandwidth of individual hackers. There's only a subset of hackers in the world that can exploit certain vulnerabilities, but if you allow AI to analyze 1,000 contracts, it might take it a couple hours, and then you might find vulnerabilities that are already there, but were not discovered by humans. And so that's something you need to harden your dApps as best as you can. You can use AI to actually analyze your code, find vulnerabilities, and then you can implement fixes for those as well, in addition to the audits that you're doing as a developer. Yeah.
Yeah, that's any more points on AI and risk?
Yeah, I think also one thing I wanted to mention as well is we have, just in terms of AI risk and also just like dApp developers being able to leverage AI to mitigate risk and also improve their productivity, we're currently building in-house a Sonic-specific smart contract sort of IDE-style developer assistance system using AI. So I've been working on it for a little while now, and it'll be out in a few months. But I really am excited about how this is going to enable developers to perform static analysis of their code and just basically allow them to enhance their productivity by having smart contract-specific tooling that is enhanced by AI. I won't divulge too many details right now, but we'll be announcing it in the future. And I think Sonic is really trying to adopt AI as best as we can, like I mentioned, to use its benefits for our entire ecosystem, internally, externally, and what have you. And I also wanted to mention about the AI hackathon that you touched on. So the user track that was solved was a very interesting solution involving Gandalf roleplay and some really, really interesting prompt.
Did you say Gandalf roleplay?
Yes, prompt engineering. And at 4 p.m. today, I have a keynote that's a last-minute keynote that's going to go through how the user solved it, how he broke the AI. So come back to this room at 4 p.m. and we'll discuss how the guy cracked the AI.
Gandalf the Grey or Gandalf the White?
I think it might have been Odin, but I used the word Gandalf because it got confused in my mind. Yeah.
We're going to go over time, but this is my habit that I'm creating. So I'll just ask one more question, and it's a little bit off topic, but I'm actually just curious to dissect your thoughts on this, Bernhard. People ask me about quantum mechanics and quantum computers on the rise, and I guess I'm not on the technical side so much, so I kind of bunch together AI and quantum together a little bit. But I'm just curious on protection against quantum computers and the next generation of when you're going from bytecode. Hello. Basically.
Okay.
I think I got most of the answer out there, but obviously going from to qubits.
Well, there are a lot of assumptions. I mean, quantum computing is around for some time. I mean, I studied here computer science 20 years ago, maybe even longer ago, and way back we talked about quantum computing. And so far, our quantum computers are still in their infancy, so they are not working very well. But this is an assumption. Let's assume quantum computers become really, really useful and can hack cryptographic codes, which we are using at the moment in blockchains. Then things have to change. So we have to use new type of cryptographic encodings which cannot be hacked by these. You can see quantum computers as super parallel computers, so they don't just execute a program with a single state from one step to the next. You have multiple states in form of qubits, and that allows very efficient hacking of some of the cryptographic codes, but not all. And so this means the industry needs to adapt again, assuming quantum computers become fully functional and you can have a quantum computer in your pocket, but we are, I think, very far away from that.
Good to know. Well, that wraps us up. We're 2 minutes over. Thanks, everybody, for having us. I will just open it out to the audience. Is there any questions you have for myself, Seg, or Bernhard? Okay, no questions. Okay, there we go. Thanks.
Thank you.